Okay, we start this off with the third step prayer that's on page 63. If you follow along in your big book, if you'd like. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Okay, guys, we finished up chapter 7 last week. So we're in the beginning of chapter 8, which is to wives and also could be known as to spouses or partners, etc. This is an excellent chapter with regard to how to deal with an alcoholic. And it also is good instruction if you are trying to sponsor somebody. There's a lot of good nuggets of wisdom in here that does a great job of helping to give you what you are looking for in order to deal with some of the things that an alcoholic might bring to the table. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Bill. Thank you for helping out today to start on page 104 to wives.
Okay, hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. To wives, with few exceptions, our book thus far has spoken of men. But what we have said applies quite as much to women. Our activities in behalf of women who drink are on the increase. There is every evidence that women regain their health as readily as men if they try our suggestions.
Yep. So we're gender neutral. We're going to be not specific to anyone. This is an excellent chapter for that very reason. And we'll read the asterisk at the bottom there, Bill.
Okay, on the bottom there's an asterisk. It says, written in 1939 when there were few women in AA. This chapter assumes that the alcoholic in the home is likely to be the husband, but many of the suggestions given here may be adopted to help the person who lives with a woman alcoholic, whether she is still drinking or is recovering in AA. A further source of help is noted on page 121.
Okay. Keep reading, Bill.
Okay. But for every man who drinks, others are involved. The wife who trembles in fear of the next debauch. The mother and father who see their son wasting away. Among us are wives, relatives, and friends whose problems have been solved, as well as some who have not yet found a happy solution. We want the wives of Alcoholics Anonymous to address the wives of men who drink too much. What they say will apply to nearly everyone bound by ties of blood or affection to an alcoholic.
Yeah, and I think there's another note here is that, back in the mid to late 1930s, it was quite the men's club in regards to those that were involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I can tell you, and we all can just look around this room especially, and see that there's as many women involved in AA now as there are men. And so it's a very inclusive atmosphere now, and one that is very diversified. And like Bill is reading here, we are going to be looking for different solutions here, and we'll be addressing some of those issues again to help out when you're dealing with an alcoholic, whether that be a man or a woman. Bill?
Okay, you notice Bill put in here, he says, we want the wives of Alcoholics Anonymous to address the wives of men who drink too much. That's a solution for anything. Whatever going on in your life, you try to help somebody else that's going through the same thing, and that helps you get through it. So he's telling the wives to try to help the other wives what do you want to say, wives or spouses or significant other or partners, whatever. At the time when this was written, that's all that they had. They had AA wives. There was no such thing as an AA husband. That's why they wrote it, 2 wives. The first 100, 99 of them were men. There was only one woman, Florence Rankin, and she was divorced. So there was nobody in AA who had a husband at the time. So they just wrote this 2 wives because that's all they could do at the time. But today everything is different. The dynamics of AA have changed. There's probably just as many women in AA as there are men. So this could be flipped back and forth either way. And you could use this for anyone who's dealing with an alcoholic or working with an alcoholic, whether it's the sponsor, whether it's the spouse, whether it's a friend or a relative or whatever. Anybody that's dealing with an alcoholic, this is going to give us suggestions on how to do it. Okay, the next paragraph. As wives of Alcoholics Anonymous, we would like you to feel that we understand as perhaps few can. We want to analyze mistakes we have made. We want to leave you with the feeling that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness is too great to be overcome.
Yeah, and it's really the crux of everything here. We want to leave you with the feeling that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness is too great to overcome. We've proven time and again that people at their very, very bottom can recover when things are at their darkest. People are at their bottom, and it's something that you can dig yourself out of and recover from. And so we're basically saying the same thing to the wife, and we'll say this, or the partner. We'll say it again and again in this chapter, but that's part of what we're trying to do. Is we'll make the statement here that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness too great to overcome, and we'll have some examples of that. Bill?
Okay, we're on the bottom of page 104, the last paragraph. We have traveled a rocky road. There is no mistake about that. We have had long rendezvous with hurt, pride, frustration, self-pity, misunderstanding, and fear. These are not pleasant companions. We have been driven to maudlin sympathy, to bitter resentment. Some of us veered from extreme to extreme, ever hoping that one day our loved ones would be themselves once more.
Yeah, isn't it amazing at how people will stick with the alcoholic through thick and thin, better and worse. It's just like the taking vows. It's amazing at how much a spouse or partner will put up with, deal with, hang on to, and then at the same time hang on to hope. And looking for that day that things get better. It's just an incredible amount of I'll just call it abuse that some of these people take and endure and still stick around. It is really amazing. Bill?
Yeah, Bill's like setting the stage here for this chapter by telling all the stuff, like he's given an introduction here of what the spouse or the partner goes through. They have bitter resentments. They're driven to maudlin sympathy. That means sentimental or foolish or overly emotional because they feel sympathy for their partner because they have feelings for them. Even though they know that they should put their foot down, sometimes they don't want to. All right, we're on the first new paragraph on page 105. Our loyalty and the desire that our husbands hold up their heads and be like other men have begotten all sorts of predicaments. We have been unselfish and self-sacrificing. We have told innumerable lies to protect our pride and our husband's reputation. We have prayed, we have begged, we have been patient. We have struck out viciously. We have run away. We have been hysterical. We have been terror-stricken. We have sought sympathy. We have had retaliatory love affairs with other men.
Yeah, it's quite the amazing roller coaster ride that they're describing here. It is definitely up and down, back and forth, 2 steps forward, maybe 3 steps back, then 1 step forward, then 1 step back, then 2 steps forward, etc. It just takes a while to really to endure everything and get to the point that somebody may recover here. But it's amazing at what the like I said, the roller coaster ride that you have as being a part of this and being the partner of an alcoholic. Bill?
Yeah, Bill Wilson's trying to show us in this chapter what we do to other people. This isn't just written to the wives, it's also to us. And he's showing us what a pain in the neck we can be, the different things that we do, how we drive the other person or our partner crazy. Okay, the next paragraph. Our homes have been battlegrounds many an evening. In the morning we have kissed and made up. Our friends have counseled chucking the men, and we have done so with finality, only to be back in a little while hoping, always hoping. Our men have sworn great solemn oaths that they were through drinking forever. We have believed them when no one else could or would. Then in days, weeks, or months, a fresh outburst.
Yeah, man, is it amazing when there's the beginning of the point in time when consequences have surmounted and they are causing all kinds of grief with regard to our partners and others. Some just say enough is enough and they walk away. Others will say that there's enough and then they turn around and come back for more. The individual, the alcoholic who has promised that they're going to stop at this point in time realizes that there is a problem, is getting to the point, if not already, admitting that they have a problem. And then hopefully at this point that they're starting to get to that area where the consequences have surmounted to the point that that they're just too much, and it's finally time to get to recover and get straight and do the right thing. But it just doesn't seem to happen. And they do say this in days, weeks, or months. It is just amazing at the how many times we relapse before we finally get that higher power that we need in order to find that very deep down inner strength in order to be able to start the recovery. But up until that point, it is just a frustrating back and forth, up and down kind of scenario. Bill?
Yeah, Bill Wilson talks about here that the men have sworn great solemn oaths. Bill used to swear up and down he was never going to drink again. They have the family Bible from Bill and Lois. They have it up in stepping stones, and on the first page of it, he's got written like 4 different times with different dates on it that he's swearing he's never going to drink again. He's through for good. And every time he swore on the Bible, he wound up drinking again. He had a fresh outburst. That stuff doesn't help us. Just swearing off doesn't work. That can work for a hard drinker or a moderate drinker. For an alcoholic, when we swear off of something, it only works for a day or 2 or whatever. And that's not going to keep us sober. Okay, the next paragraph. We seldom had friends at our homes, never knowing how or when the men of the house would appear. We could make few social engagements. We came to live almost alone. When we were invited out, our husbands sneaked so many drinks that they spoiled the occasion. If, on the other hand, they took nothing, their self-pity made them killjoys.
Yeah, so there's really, I've had experience with this as well. You sneak a number of drinks and then find yourself thinking that somehow you've hidden it, but obviously the host and hostess of the event would probably know anyway. It just doesn't work, and making a fool of yourself in front of others, that you get to the point that you withdraw as a team or a couple, and you start to make excuses for not going out, and you stop inviting people in because you just can't trust the alcoholic to mind their P's and Q's, and it's just it's a lonely place to be. It's a very lonely place to be, and it is a definite sign that the alcoholism is starting to affect more than just the individual and the partner. It's also starting to affect other people outside of the home. Bill?
Again, Bill's showing us what we do. Well, when we go out to some kind of an occasion, we sneak so many drinks that we spoil it. And if we don't drink, we become killjoys. So when we're in active alcoholism, whether we're drinking or not, we spoil the occasion for everybody else because we just ruin it. If we can't drink, we feel sorry for ourselves and we start mumbling and grumbling. And if we do drink, who knows what goes on, but in one way or another, we're going to spoil the occasion. All right, we're on the last paragraph on page 105. There was never financial security. Positions were always in jeopardy or gone. An armored car could not have brought the pay envelope home. The checking account melted like snow in June. Sometimes there were other women. How heartbreaking was this discovery? How cruel to be told they understood our men as we did not.
Yeah, and I think it goes really kind of both ways there. That's, we won't dig into that too much. I think that, the first kind of thing here is the thing that they're talking about is the financial security, the inability to reliably hold down a job. You might be able to fake your way through it for a little while, but it doesn't take long before those at work figure it out and things start to unravel. It's very much a part of an alcoholic's process or life, and that is that they generally have mediocre performance, and in a lot of cases, they lose their jobs. If not, they get put on report. It starts to weaken their position, and they back to this unreliable ability to make money and bring money into the house. It does have an impact. I can tell you out of personal experience that I quit and was let go by mutual understanding of a job because I let the alcohol get the best of me one evening, and I lashed out at people in the business and decided that it was time for me to leave, and at the same time they thought it was also time for me to leave. So it was a very mutual decision there. So in essence, I lost a job because of alcohol, and it hurt. It took about 6 weeks to get my name out there for people to know that I was available, and it took another 6 or 8 weeks before I was able to find good employment and move on. But it was pretty thin with regard to financial stability during that time for obvious reasons. They do go on to see talking about affairs and things like that. It's misery loves company, and so alcoholics pull together to other alcoholics, and it usually finds that it's just another drinking partner that happens to lend a empathetic ear, and that causes problems. So even whether it's a physical affair or emotional affair, either one is just as damaging, and they're very, very hurtful to boot. Bill?
Yeah, even if we can hold down a job on payday, for some reason we just can't make it home with the paycheck. And he's pretty much showing us what we do. And he talks about sometimes there were other women. When we're drinking, we don't care about anybody else. All we're going to do is whatever we want to do, whether it's like was mentioned, whether it's physical or an emotional affair or whatever. But we tend to go our own way and do whatever we think we want to do. So we're very selfish people when we're drinking. All right, the next paragraph, we're on the top of page 106. The bill collectors, the sheriffs, the angry taxi drivers, the policemen, the bums, the pals, even the ladies they sometimes brought home. Our husbands thought we were so inhospitable. Joy killer, nag, wet blanket. That's what they said. Next day they would be themselves again, and we would forgive and try to forget.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that that is always the case. It's I think early on when the drinking is becoming a problem, then yeah, it does you do get forgiveness and people try to forget. But after a while, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't work. People get smart and realize that you're the problem, not them, even though you're the one blaming them for everything. But I always find it interesting here because back in the mid to late 30s, I think the police were a little bit more involved in just bringing people home, making sure that they got home safely, as opposed to getting a DUI or something like that. And things have obviously changed now. I can only imagine what it's like to bring somebody home that is um, not very welcome, and the problems that could cause. So quite a few interesting things here, where you've got on the one side, people that are either um, supporting your habit and playing a part in your demise, and or if it's the bill collectors, the sheriffs, angry taxi drivers or policemen, they're probably getting frustrated and annoyed at the very least at your problems, and your inability to either pay and or inability to drink like normal people. But yeah, early on, forgive and forget. Later on, that's not the case. Bill?
Yeah, remember, Bill Wilson wrote this. So most likely, this is experience that he had. This is all the stuff that he probably pulled on his wife. The cops bringing him home, bringing home bums or pals or angry taxi drivers banging on the doors. This is all kinds of stuff that most likely happened to Bill. And you could look at this and ask yourself, do you identify with any of this? Does any of this stuff hit home with you? Bill's showing us here what we do to the other person. All right, the next paragraph, we're on page 106. We have tried to hold the love of our children for their father. We have told small tots that father was sick, which is much nearer the truth than we realized. They struck the children, kicked out door panels, smashed treasured crockery, and ripped the keys out of pianos. In the midst of such pandemonium, they may have rushed out, threatening to live with the other woman forever. In desperation, we have even gotten tired ourselves. The drunk to end all drunks. The unexpected result was that our husbands seemed to like it.
Okay, so I apologize for chuckling a little bit here. This gets to be a little bit crazy and wild. I think that we have definitely got somebody that's fighting back, that is definitely has a problem, but um, smashing things, ripping keys out of a piano, that's pretty specific. And back to what Bill S. just said, that Bill W. had written this, and there may be some personal experience with this as well. So the I didn't ever have my wife actually turn around and get drunk alongside me. Um, uh, that just didn't seem to be a part of this. So I am not experienced with somebody that just decides to say, "Oh, to heck with it. I'm gonna drink and drink, and either show the other person or whatever." But I could see where the alcoholic would be drawn to that, and the end result isn't necessarily what you were kind of going for in the end. Bill?
Yeah, again, like was mentioned, Bill's trying to show us all the different things that we do. when we're drinking, when we're an active alcoholic. And I can identify with some of those things, but I don't identify with ripping the keys out of pianos. I never did that. I never had a piano. If I did, I don't know what would have happened, but I never had a piano, so I couldn't identify with that part. The next paragraph. Perhaps at this point, we got a divorce and took the children home to father and mother. Then we were severely criticized by our husband's parents for desertion. Usually we did not leave. We stayed on and on. We finally sought employment ourselves as destitution faced our families.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of two-income families now, so I don't know that it's necessarily just as a result of this that somebody goes out and gets a job, but I can certainly see that. I also get that others would see and think that there was a level of desertion here. It seems to be kind of like the partner, the non-alcoholic, is kind of trapped. It's kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't. And it gets to a point where other people start to criticize, which they haven't walked a mile in your shoes, so how would and why would they know any better from where they are? So it's unfortunate that we've gotten to, that this kind of stuff does happen. The partner getting the brunt of some of the criticism as opposed to the actual drunk or alcoholic. Bill?
Yeah, like was mentioned, back during this time period, there was usually only one person in the household working. You didn't have like dual income families. So if the wife had to go off to work, there was obviously some kind of a problem. So he's trying to relate that so we can understand a little bit what was going on back in the day. The last paragraph on page 106. We began to ask medical advice as the sprees got closer together. The alarming physical and mental symptoms, the deepening pall of remorse, depression, and inferiority that settled down on our loved ones. These things terrified and distracted us. As animals on a treadmill, we have patiently and wearily climbed, falling back in exhaustion after each futile effort to reach solid ground. Most of us have entered the final stage with this commitment to health resorts, sanitariums, hospitals, and jails. Sometimes there was screaming delirium and insanity. Death was often near.
Yeah, things are pretty dire. They're describing a pretty bad situation here. The alarming physical and mental symptoms getting worse and worse. The sprees, the debauches getting closer and closer together. And then the deepening remorse and depression. Obviously, the alcoholic themselves are finding that it's actually impossible to stop under their own power, and but at the same time are trying their best um, uh, to get out of it, and they're just trying to keep their partners around to support them, and the final stage, the commitment to health resorts, sanitariums. So these would be like rehab places, drunk tanks, etc. Places to dry out and then go through rehab, etc. Sometimes jail. The laws are pretty stiff these days with regard to public drunkenness, driving under the influence, etc. And then at the same time, as bad as things can be, I've heard stories just, hypothetically, somebody that lives in their parents' basement and never comes out. They basically are close to drinking themselves to death at that point. And it's a pretty dark time. And things are just quiet around the house because nobody really knows what to say or what to do. They're in this kind of stupor, if you will, with regard to how to handle the drunk and the alcoholic, especially when they're at the point of being passed out or blacked out most of the time, as it would be if you were getting to the point of near ending your life, etc. Bill?
Yeah, the book calls this the final stage. That's when we're hitting bottom, when we're at the point where we really can't go anymore, and there's health resorts, sanitariums, hospitals, and jails. This is when people start getting themselves locked up or put away. And it says sometimes they were screaming delirium. I believe that's a reference to going into the DTs. When you go into the DTs, you start kicking and biting and screaming and scratching. And at that point, you're very close to death. Something like 15% of the people that go into the DTs die from heart failure during the DTs. So this is getting really, really dangerous at this point. All right, the first new paragraph on 107. Under these conditions, we naturally made mistakes. Some of them rose out of ignorance of alcoholism. Sometimes we sensed dimly that we were dealing with sick men. Had we fully understood the nature of the alcoholic illness, we might have behaved differently.
Yeah, even today, there's not that many people that are non-alcoholics that are not associated with AA, especially, and I'm just going to use AA as the program that we're talking about, since that's what we're here for, that doesn't understand alcoholism. It wasn't until I read a couple of chapters out of the book, one of which being more about alcoholism, did I finally understand alcoholism and the mental and physical malady that it was. And yes, people don't know what to do. They want to try to hide the alcohol. They want to try to control the alcoholic, which doesn't do any good, etc. And what they find is that they might behave obviously differently if they understood the sickness and the illness that is beset the alcoholic. And it's that education, and that's why we have this book, and that's why we try to educate other people around us, which is part of the reason for having the book and the program, to get them so that they're educated and can assist in a more proper manner. So.
Yeah, most people don't understand alcoholism. Even a lot of alcoholics don't understand alcoholism. And most people think that we're doing this because we're troublemakers, or we're just doing it because we want to escape from reality. They don't realize that we're sick. And Bill's trying to get the point across here that we're actually sick people. All right, the next paragraph on this page. How could men who love their wives and children be so unthinking, so callous, so cruel? There could be no love in such persons, we thought. And just as we were being convinced of their heartlessness, they would surprise us with fresh resolves and new attentions. For a while, they would be their old sweet selves, only to dash the new structure of affection to pieces once more. Asked why they commenced to drink again, they would reply with some silly excuse or none. It was so baffling, so heartbreaking. Could we have been so mistaken in the men we married? When drinking, they were strangers. Sometimes they were so inaccessible that it seemed as though a great wall had been built around them.
And don't I know about building walls around myself and trying to insulate myself from others, and wanting to withdraw so that I could, drink the way I wanted to drink and be left alone, only to lash out and retaliate when people, called me on it. And there it is. It's like, why can't an alcoholic look around and understand and treat their partners and families and friends in a manner in which would be respectable and appropriate? But that's part of the illness of this sickness that is alcoholism, and it is definitely something that is an affliction that is hard to get around. It's that embarrassment. It is the frustration. It's the loneliness. It's the dark places and the depression that just kind of gets the hold of the alcoholic. And when people start to try to control that, it doesn't. That's not a good recipe for things that are good. and it does become very baffling and heartbreaking. It's really, really rough on the family. I can say that people with addictions really do put attacks on the family, and it makes it really difficult to maneuver and be a functioning family in a positive way. Um, Bill?
Yeah, the book is showing us here some of the things we do again, and it's telling us that we're callous and we're cruel when we're drinking, and then all of a sudden we show new attentions and new resolves because we stopped drinking for a while. Maybe we got so sick we couldn't drink anymore, or whatever, and we're our old sweet selves again. And then we go and start drinking again, and we blow everything to pieces again. So it's like cycles that we go through with our drinking. We drink and drink and drink, then we stop for a little while, and we drink and drink and drink, and then so he's trying to show here in this book the different stuff that we do. All right, we're on the bottom of page 107. And even if they did not love their families, how could they be so blind about themselves? What had become of their judgment, their common sense, their willpower? Why could they not see that drink meant ruin to them? Why was it when these dangers were pointed out that they agreed and then they got drunk again immediately?
Yeah, and that's the crux of the frustration and the ignorance around alcoholism. The alcoholic has no control over their drinking when they get to be at this point, and it is nothing more than the fact that they haven't been able to find their higher power, really get a hold of that, and find that inner strength that's necessary to rise above this evil. And it's the frustrating part for people that are looking at them, especially normal drinkers or non-drinkers. They look around and they go, why can't this person just stop drinking? I can do it. Why can't they? They're successful over here. Why can't they be successful over there? It is just it's the age old question and conundrum that people find themselves in, and as we've read earlier in the book, why can't you just stop? If the doctor said if you drink one more drink, it could kill you, and there he is getting, drunk again, kind of thing. It's impossible when you are this far gone and have not been able to tap into that higher power. Bill?
Yeah, he's pointing out here that we agree with this stuff. We understand that alcohol is destroying our life, and we agree with it. And then why do we get drunk again? The reason we get drunk again is the alcoholic insanity, the mental part of this disease that makes us drink even when we don't want to drink. We're on the top of page 108. These are some of the questions which race through the mind of every woman who has an alcoholic husband. We hope this book has answered some of them. Perhaps your husband has been living in that strange world of alcoholism where everything is distorted and exaggerated. You can see that he really does love you with his better self. Of course, there is such a thing as incompatibility, but in nearly every instance, the alcoholic only seems to be unloving and inconsiderate. It is usually because he is warped and sickened that he says and does these appalling things. Today, most of our men are better husbands and fathers than ever before.
Yeah, and we're talking about recovered husbands and fathers and wives and mothers, et cetera, et cetera. So that at the end there, but the I think a good word in here is exaggerated and distorted is another one. It's amazing at how ugly things can be, and then how nice and sweet things can be otherwise when the alcoholic is not drinking and is dried out for a period of time. I think that one of the things that I would say here is that it's kind of like having the volume turned up when you have the problems that you have with an alcoholic. They always seem to be louder and more obnoxious than the normal problems, and the volume is turned up because of the alcohol, and I think that some people think that the real person comes out when they're drinking because their inhibitions are down, et cetera. And I just don't believe that. I know for a fact that a lot of times, and I was videotaped a couple of times when I was drinking, and I was appalled at what I saw and what I heard, but I don't remember any of it. So I don't believe that our true selves come out necessarily because we're drinking and our inhibitions are down. Because if I don't remember what I was saying or even know in the first place what I was thinking and saying, then I don't feel like that is a true representation of self. And so I would just take that and think about that when dealing with other alcoholics, and especially when they're in their dark place and near their bottom, if not at their bottom, that they're probably just as desperate and just as wanting of getting out of the stupor that is alcoholism as anybody, and it that part I think is true. Most people that are at this point in time as an alcoholic and everything are far beyond knowing that they have a problem, far beyond knowing that they want to get sober, and far beyond the point of being able to do anything about it without finding their higher power, and that's important. Bill?
Yeah, this is talking about everything is distorted and exaggerated. Alcoholism is a distorted perception of reality. When we're drinking, we see things different than when we're not drinking. And it talks at the end of this paragraph about being recovered, that we can be better than we ever were before. All right, the next paragraph. Try not to condemn your alcoholic husband, no matter what he says or does. He is just another very sick, unreasonable person. Treat him when you can as though he had pneumonia. When he angers you, remember that he is very ill.
Yeah, and this is easier said than done kind of thing. And try not to condemn your alcoholic husband, no matter what he says or does. It can be very, very tough, and it can be very hurtful to be in the midst of a raging alcoholic, and one that has decided to lash out and put their own frustrations onto other people and everything. But it is a good point here, and it's one that's hard to kind of get a hold of and really remember at the point in time that it's, when somebody's lashing out at you, it really takes a lot to dig deep and to remember that the person is ill, and that they need support and empathy. It's hard to do that when somebody's yelling at you. And so this is, a small paragraph, but there's a very, very strong message here, and that is to remember that the alcoholic is sick, and that you should treat them just like you would any other sick person. It just sometimes comes with a sharp tongue, and that makes it hard to kind of fulfill that need to be supportive. Bill?
Yeah, the book is trying to get the point across that we're sick. We're very sick, and we're very ill. That's the point he's trying to get here. And he's saying, don't condemn the alcoholic, because if you do, that stuff doesn't work for us. In fact, that makes us drink more. So he's saying you have to treat someone as though they're sick, because we really are sick. All right, the next paragraph, we're on page 108. There is an important exception to the foregoing. We realize some men are thoroughly bad intentioned, that no amount of patience will make any difference. An alcoholic of this temperament may be quick to use this chapter as a club over your head. Don't let him get away with it. If you are positive he is one of this type, you may feel you had better leave. Is it right to let him ruin your life and the lives of your children, especially when he has before him a way to stop his drinking and abuse if he really wants to pay the price.
Yeah, so sometimes things are insurmountable. Sometimes they are too far gone. Sometimes it is, a time to walk away. Some people are just too far gone and are too ugly. Maybe they're dangerous. It is self-preservation that Bill is referring to here, and it's one that's important um, to try to discern between whether the person is worth sticking with and saving, or is this person not worth it? And it's time to walk away and find a better life in a better way, because obviously there's no reason, and nobody here is advocating that you put up with the abuse for a long-term period of time. And that I think is an important message, and it's that it is a struggle. How much do I take? How much do I endure? How much do I try before I finally say enough's enough and walk away? And sometimes walking away is a catalyst for the other person and their loss, and finally getting to the bottom and and figuring out that they are losing more than they want. I had the fear of losing things. Obviously, my mutual agreed upon departure from my job was a catalyst. I didn't stop drinking at that point, but I was well on my way to trying to figure it out. I had some relapses. I had some problems, and it was a combination of, it's kind of like a building block. It was a combination of finally building the structure that I could rely upon, lean on in order to say enough is enough. There's a fear of losing my family. I've already, had a job affected by my drinking. The roof over my head is in jeopardy. The food in my mouth, utilities and things like that, bills being not paid, all were starting to close in around me. And before they finally got me, I was lucky, I think, in the sense that I was actually able to find a group of people that were very helpful in getting me to the point that I could dig deep, find that inner strength, and ultimately stop drinking in a manner in which would be where I'm at today, where I've got years behind me now without having had a drink. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean, I'm better. I'm a lot better than I was, but not completely healed. I think it takes a long, long time. I know that first year, there were a lot of things that happened to me in that first year that were surprising as to how long the symptoms of alcoholism lasted. But nonetheless, it was that fear of losing everything that was part of a catalyst. And I think that that's also something here that could be as a result of somebody deciding that enough is enough, that this person has gone too far, and that self-preservation should prevail, and so on and so forth. Bill?
Yeah, the book is telling us here that all alcoholics don't get better. Sometimes a person doesn't want to get better, or sometimes they can't get better, and it might be necessary that you have to walk away from them. So he's giving us suggestions or advice here on, depending on the circumstances, you may just have to walk away. All right. The next paragraph on the bottom of page 108.
Hey,
the
Bill,
problem with which you, yes,
since this gets into a whole different section, we're gonna go ahead and stop here and open things up for discussion.
Okay.
Question. So,
all right. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you for the help, Bill. I'm gonna stop right there.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. We'll close things out with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right.